I'm Lisa Fain, CEO of Center for Mentoring Excellence. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Dr. Bev Kaye, whom I'll introduce to you in a minute. This is, believe it or not, episode 11 of our Thought Leader series, our series of thought leader conversations, which are conversations with people who are experts in fields adjacent to, and in this case, really overlapping and including mentoring as well. And for those who have been to several, and I see lots of familiar faces, I think you'll agree that they are thought-provoking and engaging, and we're just delighted that you're here. Today, we are talking about engagement and retention in mentoring. And we are doing that, as I said, with my friend and colleague, Dr. Bev Kaye. Some of you met Dr. Bev Kaye in National Mentoring Month, where we had an amazing conversation with Bev and her mentee, Casey. And we're back. She's back for more. So let me tell you a little bit about her before we dig in. Dr. Bev Kaye is recognized internationally as one of the most knowledgeable and practical professionals in the area of career development, employee engagement, and retention. Her contribution to the field of engagement and retention includes the Wall Street Journal bestseller, Love 'Em or Lose 'Em, which she's going to be giving a copy away of today. So stick around to the end if you'd like to win a copy of her book. Love 'Em or Lose 'Em, Getting Good People to Stay. It's now in its 6th edition. It is a great, great, great book. Her recent books in the career development field include Up Is Not the Only Way and Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go, which provided overwhelmed managers with a way to blend career conversations in their everyday routine. In 2018, ATD honored Bev Kaye with their Lifetime Achievement Award, recognizing her advanced knowledge and extensive practice in the talent development field. In 2018, ISA awarded Dr. Kaye their Thought Leadership Award for her body of work. And in 2019, IMS awarded Dr. Bev Kaye with their Lifetime Achievement Award for her contributions to the field of career development and engagement. And it goes on and on.
You have to be old, ancient to get all those awards.
You know, they're all really recent, Bev, which means, I mean, I know there's stuff from before as well, but it means that you are, no matter what your age, you continue to be relevant and adding wisdom and value to the field. And even as recently as 2022, I4CP awarded you their 2022 Industry Legend Award. So a legend, a sage, a friend, a leader. Welcome. Thrilled to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Sweet, sweet.
It's a pleasure. I want to talk to you about the link between engagement and mentoring, because something that I know as people are coming to us at the center, they are looking to mentoring for this value that it provides in engagement. So I would love to just start with your thoughts, Bev, on how mentoring directly impacts employee engagement within an organization. And maybe you could even share an example where mentoring boosted engagement.
You know, it is amazing that, and it's so simple, yet so hard to do. People want to be seen. They want to be valued. They want to be noticed for all they do. And that's not hard. And yet managers don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And if the company has a formal mentoring program, then they've either matched people up or built some kind of a system. And I think people will stay if they feel noticed, cared about, values, and if they're growing. So mentoring supports both my specialties, engagement and retention, and career development. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard. But boy, are people still jumping ship for lack of feeling their skills are recognized in their organization.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, so, you know, what's easy might not be simple. What's simple might not be easy. What do you think prevents people from, doing this thing? It's not that hard, but what stops us from?
I think mentors think I'm not going to volunteer. It's going to drag out more of my time. I don't have time to do it. And maybe on the mentee side, It's, why would someone want to mentor me?
Mm,
Or I don't have the nerve to ask, or there's all those things that stop us. But preparing for this made me think of a great kind of mentoring education 2-minute interchange.
mhm,
Recently, I did a face-to-face, a talk to a live group, and it was a group of high potentials. And when the meeting was over, I was going to go outside and wait for my cab to the airport. And I watched two people in the group, two men, walk over to each other and give each other this bear hug. And I thought, how nice, in the session they were very formal, but here they love each other. And the word love, of course, I'm always listening for. But so I went over and I said, what was that hug for? And they said in unison, we are mentee and mentor. I
mm.
said, ooh, Beverly, grab that moment. And
Yeah.
I said, so as a mentor, what was so wonderful about your mentee? And the guy said he was hungry.
Mm,
I thought, great answer. And then I said to the mentee, what was the best thing about your mentor? And without a moment's notice, he said he was authentic. So maybe right there is the core of mentoring. It is authenticity by the mentor, which we often don't show for a variety of reasons. And it was hunger from the mentee for another person, interested and telling me and sharing. So, like I said, I'm going to write about that. I never did, but I will now that I remembered it. But
love
I
that.
think that's the essence. And I think there are ways to simplify it.
Yeah.
And I think you've simplified it in your gigantic workbook that I love. And we have to make it not so complex. So when we talk about mentoring, we don't get leaders saying, oh, no, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I'm very big on keeping it simple and narrowing it down to its, essence.
Yeah. What about retention? You've extensively explored the themes of engagement and retention. I'm wondering what role you see mentoring playing in retaining top talent and how organizations can best leverage that.
So,
Excuse me.
yes, my specialty is engagement, and yes, my other specialty is career development.
Mm,
So, just coming out of the career side, I know that the main reason for people to join an organization is I'll bet my career will be enhanced here.
mhm,
And the number one reason they leave that organization is because I did not see a career path for me.
mhm,
And so I know that career is one of the reasons people want mentoring, especially if they're not getting it from their own leader. Then I want it from someone else. But even if I get it from my own leader, I want to expand my network. And the thing that because I see that one of my colleagues, Ms. Becky Willis, is on the call, and Becky and I have worked on the idea of you don't have to leave your organization. And managers, you don't have to worry about losing talent or hoarding talent, that you can grow right where you are. So mentors have to learn, I think, about job enrichment for their mentee, and managers have to learn about job enrichment for their own employees. And seeing Becky in the audience makes me think of our project on kaleidoscope careers, which you can check out easily.
Mm. What's a kaleidoscope career, Bev?
Here's what it is in its simplest. We used to use a telescope to find the exact thing we want to move into. And usually that was up. And we know there's not enough ups to go around. In Up is Not the Only Way, I talked about 6 different ways to move. But the one that's most ignored is enrichment, meaning you can stay where you are and grow.
Mm.
And as I look at all the companies I've consulted to and done training in, I think it's a big hunk that you don't have to leave. And I know that the hoarding of talent, keeping them close to you, is going on. Maybe one way to grow people and let you, okay, you can hoard your talent, but you have to grow them, is what's so essential.
Mm. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about all of this related to kind of mentoring programs. And I'm wondering, based on your experience, what you see the components of a successful mentoring program are, especially one that seeks to engage in retention and engagement.
Right. So, of course, and you know this, it's educating both mentee and mentor about how to handle that conversation.
Mm.
And, those of you who on the phone who might know me know I'm really a word lover. So I'm into rhyming, I'm into alliteration. So years ago, this is how I define. I was showing you, this is how long we built it into a file, and we said that good mentors extend their reach. In other words, they reach out beyond their area. They listen, don't preach. They do more than teach, and they define actions for each,
Mm.
meaning I'm going to give you some solid things you can do. And I'm going to share this with you. And that's the mentoring side. The mentee side, rhyming, is get in the zone, make your needs known, discover skills to hone, and assess how you've grown.
Mm.
So maybe in a way, that's the essence of good mentoring. There's a job for the mentor, there's a job for the mentee. And, I believe if you just have a conversation with someone that's kind of out of your own orbit, you're being mentored and you don't even know it.
Mm.
And I suggested to Lisa, just so you all know on the phone, Lisa, we need to mentor each other as owners of companies that are going through a lot of change.
Mhm.
So I'm going to actually see what skills Lisa herself has mentoring me. And it's just, I think if people feel they have someone who cares, like a mentor, they'll think twice about leaving,
Mhm.
about saying sayonara to an organization. So I think it's critical. And maybe the more informal and flexible we make it, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, this dynamic between formal and informal mentoring, isn't it? Right. I mean, there are studies that show that cultures that rely on informal mentoring have higher quality mentoring relationships. And yet, um, what we know is that you can't have a culture of informal mentoring relationships without that you measure that has equity and inclusion built into it, and without a formal mentoring program as well. So they complement one another. It's really, really it's an interesting dynamic.
And I'll tell you about another, did I pull it? Another program, again, this is years ago. Now you're reminding me, pull those off the shelf. But we developed a program called Ment Working. And it was a 3-ring binder. Some of you will remember when we would ship 3-ring binders. If you open it from one side, it tells you how to network for many mentors. In other words, don't just pick one.
Mm,
If you open it from the other side, it teaches you how to mentor many. Because I think now it's less a one-on-one that goes on for years and more, I mentor you casually.
yeah,
And I feel good when I do it. You feel good when you get those hints. So Ment Working was something else that I will share with you, Lisa, because
yeah,
you're more in the forefront. And I tried to get somebody to uh, improve the old product. And she had it up on her screen, and her husband walked in and he said, "What are you doing with men twerking?" I said, "What? Men twerking? No, it's men working."
It was, I think
So,
twerking probably was not a term
not a term.
when you
Right,
developed
right,
that. Yeah,
right,
I
right,
love
right.
that. Where does your own passion for mentoring come from?
I mentioned to you that I turned 80 a few months ago. And I think for me at 80, it's giving people concrete ideas.
Yeah,
And I think I mentor in a way every time I open my mouth, which beware of me on an airplane or beware of me in a crowd. Um, so, I do that a lot.
yeah.
And I'll bet you everybody on this call, and Laura, you have such a great smile on your face. Um, Everybody, we can't help but do it
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we share our know-how. Um, and what I've learned is we shouldn't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Using that word, like I said to you before this call, I have stuff I want to learn from you. And I have some things I think, you could make use of even better than me.
Yeah. Love it.
So
Is there an early mentor in your career who you feel felt made a difference for you?
there was, and I think I wrote about it on during mentoring month, if not this year, last year. Her name was Alice Sargent. And Alice passed away a good 10 or more years ago, but she wrote the book Beyond Sex Roles,
Hmm.
and she wrote the book about androgyny. And she early on, said, in a way, she said, "Welcome to the field," because she was there ahead of me. And, you know, she always guided me, not only in my work, but Alice had a great daughter, and I was in the adoption process. And she mentored me on mothering too. So, she was a mom mentor as well as a mentor of the work I was doing.
Mhm.
So, yes, and I think we have more mentors than we realize, but we don't put that title on them.
Yeah.
So, I can't believe I prepped for this for at least 2 hours. And I'm just speaking off the top of my head. I didn't have to do all that prep because it's in
It's
there.
so deep in your heart. Yeah, it is so deep in your heart.
It is.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about the future of mentoring because I'm wondering as you look ahead how you see the evolution of mentoring in response to the way work is changing, particularly as workforces are now remote or hybrid, and using digital communication tools and all those things. What
Right.
are your thoughts on that, Beth?
You know, again, I'm going to go back to a model
Yeah.
that helps me. And I wrote about it in the mentoring chapter in Love 'em or Lose 'em. Because I think in some organizations we make it too big a process. So of course the busy manager can't volunteer. But I said, here's what a mentor does. They model the M, they encourage the E, they nurture, and they teach organizational reality, the
Mm,
TOR.
mm,
In other words, here's how you get into hot water. Here's what you need if you're pitching so and so in that department. Here's what I've learned. So it's model, walk your talk,
mhm,
encourage, people never get enough of it. MEN, nurture an idea, a fledgling idea, and
mm.
then teach organizational reality. Don't do this, do that. So maybe to your question, that survived all of this AI, everything, because it's down to the basics. It's mentor.
Yeah.
And maybe the TOR part is where the mentor says, I'm thrown by all this AI. Here's what I'm using. Just the way you and I talked about using Chat GPT 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so take away the mystique and tell them what you're doing and where you're suffering, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. There's a lot of great tools. I'm interested too in does one use AI for mentoring, for the actual part of mentoring? You know, and
Wow.
I don't have an answer for it yet, but I'm curious if anyone who's here joining us has any
Yeah.
answers or thoughts. Let us know either in the chat or raise your hand and we'll.
I never thought of saying to Chat GPT, and both of us are using Chat GPT 4, something like, you know, uh, I have someone on my team who is extraordinarily shy, and I know she wants to be a manager. What could I do to help her out of that shyness? I'll
Mm,
bet you, and you could say, give me the words of what I might say to her. ChatGPT, at least 4, will do it,
yeah, it's
you
amazing.
know,
It,
and it will coach you how to coach someone else.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So what came out of my mouth just then, I never thought of asking Chat GPT to help me with some people I'm not getting along with.
Yeah, yeah. There's great stuff in the chat. I want to acknowledge that, and then I'll share an anecdote of how I used it that I shared with Bev just before everybody logged in. So Geraldine says, ask AI to generate an outline for mentoring themed sessions with open-ended questions. Yeah, that's a great idea. The generation of open-ended questions can be really challenging for some people, and that's fantastic. Becky says, employees are using chat more for career advice than with their managers. They are, which is both inspiring and scary at the same
Right.
time. And Geraldine says set up debates. That's really interesting. Geraldine, can you unmute? I'm curious what you mean by set up debates.
So I talk to faculty about this actually because they're always looking for ways to use AI with their learners. And one of the ways I tell them to advocate is use it almost like a study tool. So ask the AI to set up a debate, and you can either debate the AI or you can have the AI create the for and against, and then you can kind of unpack it. So maybe there's a topic that you want to talk about that's quite, has those binaries that you want to talk to with a mentee. you set up that debate and then you unpack it with them.
That's amazing.
All I can
Absolutely
say is
amazing.
I'm glad I'm 80 because this is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's
Right.
really remarkable. I was telling Bev before everybody logged on. Thanks, Geraldine, for that contribution. That's great. I was telling Bev before everybody logged on. Some of you may know that before I led Center for Mentoring Excellence, I was leading diversity, equity, and inclusion for an organization. And I have a community of other DEI practitioners who had asked me relatively recently to lead a retreat for them. And during a break in the retreat, we were just talking about AI, and we were thinking about the ways that you could use it for DEI work. Often what folks who work in the DEI field are asked to do is to coach, employees who are looking, who have thorny issues that, may cause maybe uncomfortable related to identity. So we actually came up with a scenario that was a relatively common scenario, and typed it into AI, and it was something to the effect of, you have to tell AI, I'm no expert in AI, but I'll just tell you how we use it. You know who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. So we took on the persona of a white woman in an office who wanted to have a performance management conversation with an employee who reported to her who was African American, and she was nervous about stepping on, stepping in it, so to speak, in terms of racial insensitivity and that kind of thing. We came up with a whole scenario. We typed it into AI and we said, what would you say and how would you do it? And we wouldn't have taken everything that AI said, but it was so good that here are these seasoned, it was half a dozen seasoned DEI professionals who had been working in the DEI field for 20 or 30 years. And they were like, yeah, that's actually a pretty good answer. So there's lots of ways to think about it in that realm, but also in the mentoring realm as well. And I love those suggestions. So thank you, Becky, Geraldine, and others who have contributed to that as
And
well.
Lisa, to build on that, one of the fastest growing careers is to be a prompt engineer.
Mm,
And they are out there, they are making big bucks, and they will engineer your prompt so you get exactly what you want in chat's answer.
amazing, amazing. Um, Lori has said, Geraldine, I like this idea for use of AI. And Becky, what you share is mighty interesting. Yes. And Geraldine says, and you could use the scenario to analyze it from a mentor or mentee perspective. I love
That's
that.
right.
I
That's
love
right.
that. We talk a lot about perspective shifting questions too. And so AI can really be a tool to help generate those, but also to share additional perspectives as well. I love that. What do you most wonder about, Bev, when it comes to mentoring, when it comes to engagement, retention, career development? What curiosities are on your mind?
I'm always trying to figure out how to simplify
Mm,
and how to make the advice we all give practical. My quest has always been in the workshops training for any leader in the room to say, I could do that. That's not so hard.
mm,
And the same thing for any individual. Whoa, I never knew it was that easy. Like the other day, I used something that I've used a lot, that what people have to do is they have to seek, see, and seize. Seek meaning, how am I reading all the signs around me?
hmm
What are they telling me? See meaning, see the one that applies to you, that you could do the easiest, and then seize, go try it. And
hmm
I think some people only seek, yeah, that's interesting, that's interesting, that's interesting, but they never take it to the next level. And I think some people also see, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that, but they never seize. They
mm,
never say, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to hold my nose and jump in. So I think that little framework helps me take a look both at how do I teach and how do I learn.
yeah.
And the simpler we can make it, the better. you know, in Love 'Em or Lose 'Em, the
I'm going to ask you an off-script question because it's coming up for me as we're talking, which is, I get asked a lot, what do I think about when it comes to hybrid, and remote? How do you use mentoring to engage a hybrid and remote workforce? And do I really think that you can do mentoring as well virtually as you can in person? And I'm wondering how you feel about that, from an engagement and retention standpoint. What does this move to hybrid and remote mean from an engagement and retention standpoint?
just a side note on hybrid and remote. I just finished with my co-author, Julie Winkle Giulioni, doing the third edition of Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go. And when you do an edition, you tweak everything, but you have to add one solid chunk of content. And the content we added was about how do you do career development with someone who's remote? How do you have that development conversation / mentoring conversation? And we had a hard time. We researched, we looked, it wasn't easy to find what is the difference between someone in your office that you coach and someone on screen or phone or whatever. And as we looked, there's not that much of a difference in the particulars of what you do. Especially now that we have Zoom and all its cousins.
Yeah.
So maybe it is a reminder to do what you always do, but maybe forget to do when you're remote.
Yeah, I love the way you phrase that.
I was going to say, maybe we need a sign. I have signs on my computer. Maybe we need a sign that says, have you mentored lately? Just say, well, no, I haven't.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be done more and more that way.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I'm the point of view that I'm playing with, and I would love to hear your thoughts and the thoughts of those who are here is, there's been so much talk about we have to bring people back to work and we have to bring people back, or excuse me, we have to bring people back to the office because people are already working, right? We have to bring people back to the office. It's so important for engagement. It's so important for culture. And, where I keep coming back to, and again, I'm still playing with this point of view is I'm not sure that that's correct. First of all, I know the studies show that having hybrid options is, from an inclusion standpoint, really, really important in terms of inclusiveness. But it's also, there's no disparity in terms of productivity between hybrid and in person. And what's required, instead of just bringing back to the office, is re-examining what our leadership skills are, right? Is, as you say, like creating this intentionality and this consciousness around engaging one another, making sure people feel seen. How, as leaders, do we mentor others? How, as leaders, do we continue to engage people and create informal opportunities to interact and all of these things? So I don't know if that stirs up any thoughts in you. I saw you writing something down.
So I did. During the pandemic, I wrote an article about how do you welcome people back? And I think I just have to tweak that now because I said in that article, they're coming back in one of three ways. You're going to hear my rhyming. They're coming back burning. I can't wait to have everybody around and I'm so excited. Or they're coming back yearning. Yeah, I'm really ready. I hope it's different now. Or they're coming back churning. I don't know whether I want to return to what was.
Yeah.
And that there are things managers can do about each of those because they're very different. Yeah. And I wonder if managers are putting out the welcome mat and going deeper around people who, "Ugh, I don't want to, are they finding out more?" And that's a great opportunity for real mentoring,
Mhm.
like in the moment when they come back.
Yeah.
How upset are they to return? How happy are they to return and why?
Yeah.
So there's great conversations right there.
That's beautiful. Love it. Okay. Bev, I want to ask you, this is actually the same question that I asked you at the end of the Mentoring Month interview with Casey, but I'm wondering if there's anything new or if maybe your answer is the same, maybe it's something different or evolved, which is, what advice do you have for new mentors or new mentees and new mentees?
Maybe it's the little story I told in the very beginning.
Mm,
Maybe it's mentee, show that you are hungry, show that you want to learn, ask questions about their career and the ups and downs, because they will love to tell you their story.
mm,
And sometimes they won't unless you ask. So, mentee, be thirsty, and mentor, be authentic.
mm,
And I think we're much more authentic these days than I was there in the old days, in the old days. But maybe that's the secret: authenticity and hunger,
mm.
and asking great questions for the mentee.
Yeah.
And
I would even say asking great questions for the mentor.
for the mentor, that's it, the
Yeah,
art.
yeah, for both.
Right,
Yeah, the art of asking great questions. Yeah.
right. And there's a
Um,
ton of books out on the art of questioning.
yeah, there's some really great ones. Really great ones. Do you have a favorite?
Um, what got you? I would want to say, if I was a mentee, what got you most in trouble?
Mm,
How did you get yourself most in career trouble?
yeah.
And maybe as a mentor, I want to say, what worries you about the next 2 years in your career? Just to get to something specific.
Those are gold. Those are gold. Those questions are really gold. Geraldine shared in the chat that she just asked Copilot, which is her AI tool of choice, I'm guessing, to generate mentoring relationship reflective journal questions. And there's some great ones that she's shared in the chat. We'll make sure people have that.
Yeah, make sure I get those too.
Yeah, and Becky has said reverse mentoring helps. Yeah, I don't love the term reverse mentoring, Becky. It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. We actually call it complementary mentoring in the book because all mentoring is reciprocal, right? But when you think about reverse mentoring of someone more junior, mentoring someone more senior, the term reverse often implies some sort of value difference. I love the concept of reverse mentoring, and I
I
love
do
to use the
too.
word complementary mentoring because I do think that there is um, a reciprocity and a mutuality in that term complementary mentoring that reverse mentoring doesn't always um, reflect. It's such a powerful tool, and
Right,
we're seeing it
right.
used more and more in workplaces to great results from an
Yeah,
inclusion
I
standpoint.
agree.
Yeah,
I
it's really
agree.
fantastic.
But some words we're hooked on, and we get it. We
Yeah,
get underneath the word, right?
yeah. Um, it's terrific. And there's a great book actually by Patrice Gordon that just arrived in my mailbox last week on reverse mentoring that I'm really excited to read.
Really. And the title was Reverse
Oh,
Mentoring.
it's reverse mentoring. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm actually very excited to read that book as well. Um,
I
one
think the best book is The Mentor's Guide, third edition. Look at this.
Well, thank you. I wrote that with my mom, as you know, and we're really proud of it. And there's actually some really good content on hybrid mentoring in there as well. We do have a few minutes for questions or comments or other thoughts. So if anybody has any, don't hesitate to put that in the chat, including what's resonated for you from this time in this conversation that Bev and I had. We'd love to hear that from you as well. Any thoughts, questions? And there's a lot of wisdom in this room. I know a lot of these faces and a lot of these people who are doing great work. So,
well, I want to say I appreciate Bev's underscoring and observation that mentoring can be such a powerful tool to retain talent. It just creates a trusting emotional connection with someone in the organization, and every single job has weeks that are dreadful, where you just, for sure, that's the week you're going to quit. But I've seen it happen too. If you have some really authentic, good connections within the organization, such as a mentoring relationship, you will think twice and you'll likely stay. You'll be able to hit your reset button and go, yeah, that was a bad week, but on balance,
Right.
it's a pretty good organization.
Good.
Yeah. Thanks, Lori. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think this idea of being heard and valued and seen, I think you used different words, Bev, but that's, I think, what you were saying at the beginning, is mentoring is such a great tool for that. And that's really what people want in their work environments. So it's really wonderful for that. I know that authenticity and hunger resonated so much with me, Bev, and I'm going to be carrying that away from this conversation. So appreciate that as well. Let me just share. I want to share my screen as well so that folks know how to get in touch with you. And so you'll see on the screen here all of Bev's contact information, as well as some of her books on the bottom. And then on May 14th, we're going to have our next conversation with this idea of social connection with Dr. Janice Malloy. So join us for that on May 14th as well. We love seeing your faces month after month. We love seeing new faces each month. And it's just delightful to have so many of you join us again and again. Thank you all for your great contributions to this dialogue. There's a lot to be thinking about when we think about engagement and retention. So continue to share your thoughts. Have a great month. Happy spring. Happy post-eclipse. And have a wonderful afternoon, everybody.